It didn't start when I was a teenager, but that didn't change how I still felt. For as long as I could remember, I was never fully able to shut my bedroom door. I kept it open just enough to give myself some time. I wasn't sure why I would need time, but something deep down in my gut told me I would. There were some nights I woke up and the door had somehow opened much farther than I had left it. My mind begged me to believe it was just airflow or a faulty memory, but my heart knew better. I could never seem to close the door again. Moving as far away from it as possible was much more appealing to me. Still, I couldn't stop myself from staring down into the dark hallway, my eyes wide open until sleep claimed me again. Sleep rarely did. If I were lucky enough to fall asleep and for the door not to open, I still never felt alone. Often my dreams played a game of tug-of-war with my memories and what might have been. My mind shifted from one hellish nightmare to the next, begging to escape. The thing was, there wasn't any escape. I could run as far as possible, but it always found me. It was like it knew what I was going to do before I even thought of it, always ahead of me, always chasing me, always waiting for me. When I was brave enough to leave the room, I often found myself attempting to write down every dream. I struggled to recall the details. It was frustrating to have such a real experience, only for it to fade away as soon as I woke up. If someone were to read what I wrote down, it wouldn't make sense. It didn't even make sense to me. Why was this happening? Why was this still happening? I often tried to remember when it first started. That was a long time ago. I am not sure if it was the first, but the earliest moment I can remember was sitting in a chair, waiting for my mom. I wasn't sure where she was or what she was doing. I didn't know anyone around me. My favorite toy car kept me company, but it wasn't enough. Strangers sat beside me, walked around me, and in some instances, talked about me. They knew something that I didn't, and that scared me. I didn't know why, but that is when the fear first began to strangle me. Waiting for my mom was common. Sometimes I had no choice but to just watch her. At times, she was very much a mother. Other times, it seemed like she had left her body and gone somewhere else. I would sometimes catch her staring out the window, and I would often look to see what had caught her attention. Most of the time, it was nothing. There was nothing there. Yet she was captured by something. She wouldn't blink, she wouldn't talk, and she had no facial expression at all. I would just watch her. In some ways, she got even with me for always watching her. In more than one of my dreams, she was there, watching me, standing beyond the door that wasn't supposed to be open, lurking in the hallway, just watching. I didn't know if she was looking at me or beyond me. To be honest, I didn't want to know. Neither answer sat well with me. More than needing that answer, I needed relief from the fear. Eventually, my mom would fall asleep or pass out. Usually this was abrupt, happening mid-conversation. Whatever she had in her hands would often fall to her side, spilling its contents or crashing to the floor. I could never get myself to call out for her. I think I was always afraid of who or what would answer if I did. The evening felt endless whenever she fell asleep. The clock ticked loudly into the silence of the house. I think this is when fear introduced itself to me. I didn't have a choice. One time, when I was waiting for my mom, I decided to look for her. Although there were other adults around me, no one seemed to help. They all just stared. They stared as if they knew a secret I wouldn't like. I began to walk around the room, not realizing I'd left my toy car behind. I didn't know where I was going. Strange sounds were coming from around the corner and down the hallway. Instinctively, I followed their call, not fully aware of where it was leading me. As I rounded the corner, the hallway seemed to extend endlessly. There was a nurse standing there, perhaps standing guard? I wasn't sure. She wasn't very welcoming. I thought nurses were supposed to be nice. As I slowly made my way toward her, I could feel my heart beating louder with each step. Why was I afraid? Was the nurse going to help me? Where was my mom? None of my questions were answered, at least not right away. As I moved closer to the nurse, I looked up at her. Her face. That's all I can remember. I remember her face because she didn't have one. I turned and ran back toward my chair, back toward my toy car, back toward real people. Our bathroom was different. There was a huge collection of red bottles that Mom had run out of room for in her own bathroom. I remember admiring them. Every time I brushed my teeth, I would stand there and count the red bottles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 28, 29, 30. Always 30. Even though I looked, I knew never to touch them. One time, I did open one of the doors to get a closer look. After a few seconds of holding my breath, I closed it just as quickly. Those red bottles. If I close my eyes right now, I can still see them. All 30. I could always tell when the red bottles had been used. The night would be so fun at first. Mom would always dress up in that dress he bought her. She would make her way into the living room and begin blaring music. She would immediately start laughing and dancing. Her energy was contagious, and I watched her again. This time I joined in the laughter. She seemed so happy. These solo dances seemed to last for hours, one song after the next. She never slowed down. Eventually, she would begin to sweat. Her hair, once brushed nicely, now matted across her forehead as she twirled, breathless. Then she would stop dancing. She would begin complaining that her head was hurting. I never knew how to help her, so I just watched. She grabbed at her head and began to cry. She cried harder than the time I fell and hit my knee, the time there was all that blood. I hated to hear her cry. It scared me. It seemed to get louder and louder. "Mom, maybe get some water and lie down," was always the best I could think to offer. She never replied. After several minutes, she would make her way back to her feet, shuffle down the hallway, go into her room, and close the door. I would sit alone, unwillingly remembering. I wasn't sure, but something told me she didn't stay in her room. A sound of thuds in the middle of the night always caused my skin to prickle with goosebumps. A strange smell would fill the air of my room and then vanish. Something always felt as though it were right near me, but I could never bring myself to confirm it. I would hold still, barely breathing, hoping for the feeling to leave as soon as possible. "Never open your eyes," I would repeat over and over in my head. These memories cling to me to this day. Why did this happen? Why was this happening? Things really changed on my 7th birthday. I don't remember the cake or gifts. I don't remember singing. I only remember one thing: the master bathroom. I usually wasn't allowed in my mom's room. She would often make me stand at the doorway if I needed her. Today was a little different. While I was getting ready to go to bed, I heard the loudest sound. I ran towards her room, but then hesitated as I crossed the doorway. My walk nearly became a crawl. I called out to her, but no answer. I stopped, frozen as my eyes looked towards the bathroom. "Mom?" Memories. They linger, especially the ones you want to forget. Today, I often sit outside and play a solo game of What If. I can't really say how healthy that is. Things happen so fast when you aren't expecting them. Most of the time, a tragedy becomes a tragedy because you didn't realize how much was at stake until it was too late. Somehow, understanding that was the easy part. Understanding what was still haunting me every single night. Now that was the part I struggled with. Correction. The part I struggle with. 12 years later, and it's still at every corner. I would ask God to help me, but he stopped talking to me a long time ago. Or maybe I stopped talking to him. I finally decided to close the door. Not partially, all the way. It was easier than I thought it would be. I stared at the doorknob for what felt like hours, though maybe it was only minutes. A couple of times the knob seemed to move. When I adjusted my vision, it stopped. Maybe it never started. I am not so foolish as to think there isn't a world on the other side of that closed door. I am not so foolish as to think she might not be on the other side, waiting for me. I kept a couple of the red bottles. I have to avoid her. I have to avoid it. It almost got me a few times, and she knows.